Hello and welcome to Comedy in a Nutshell, the interview podcast where comedians, performers and promoters wax lyrical on their experiences in the world of comedy. If only you could see the things we've seen through these eyes. I'm your host Mark Ducano and I endorse this message. I love talking to comedians about comedy, and if you like listening to what they have to say as much as I do, then please like, subscribe, review, rate and share the podcast. My guest on this episode was as much a stranger to Britain's shores as he was to stand-up comedy when he first appeared at the Comedy Store 8 years ago, and since then he's been a critically acclaimed Edinburgh Fringe regular. It's stand-up comedian Luca Cupani.
Hello, hi Mark.
Hi Luca, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good, good.
If you're happy, we'll jump right in, okay?
Yeah.
Good. So you are Italian-born. Were you performing comedy in Italy?
Not before starting doing comedy in London. I first started doing comedy in London.
Mm-hmm.
I was a funny guy with people around me, friends, but I never thought this could become a job. It was my way to fit in, probably. You know, when you have a group of friends, if you're not the coolest, if you're not the fittest, you try to be the funniest. So at least they will be happy to have you around.
So you came to Britain. Did you come to the UK specifically to do comedy?
No, not really. I came to the UK to become an actor because as an actor in Italy, I tried a little bit, mainly theater, not film, anything, but very small role. And this was a sort of a light bulb moment for me because I never traveled before. I never left my country, my hometown before. So when I was told you could move to London, and sometimes they have actors that are from other countries, and I thought, okay, let's try. And then I found out that accent wasn't a problem, but in my case, I was told that I look more Polish, Eastern European. So if they're getting an Italian actor to play a commercial anywhere, I would be too not Italian enough. My face wouldn't match. Would match the accent. I know it's so. After a few weeks doing casting, I realized this uncomfortable truth, and a friend suggested me to try and do comedy instead because he said you are funny, you could make people laugh. There were things called open mics, gigs where you didn't need to have an agent, just go on stage. You don't need to be introduced by someone. You just turn up, you apply, and then you get your moment on stage. So that was the thing that hooked me, the possibility of skip all the vetting process, if you want.
Right.
And I looked for some open mic, and the best open mic, according to Google, was the Gong show in the Comedy Store.
Yes.
And I got a spot, and I thought, wow, that's easy. It's just really because it's apparently the best open mic. I've already got the chance to be on stage. I didn't know how the Gong show works. I found out that night. My only knowledge of comedy clubs was through Seinfeld, the TV shows.
Yeah.
So my idea was sort of a jazz club. I was expecting a brick wall, and lit round table, nodding and laughing. No, not exactly what you get when you get to the Comedy Store. It's on the Gong show. It's 400 drunk people, and they just want they want to enjoy in seeing you fail. So that was my first approach with comedy. I realized that it was different, and I didn't know things. My English was much worse than it is now. I didn't prepare I never did comedy before, and I thought it was more sort of a friendly chat where you find something funny. That was my like Seinfeld. Have you noticed that this and that? Once I get there, I realized it wasn't what I was expecting. A lot of people were mentioning Croydon, and people were laughing. Okay, that's Croydon is funny apparently. Someone was mentioning Jimmy Savile. Mixed reaction. Who was the guy? I didn't know anything. So okay, and I thought come up with a nice line, the opening line, which was more of a sort of a chat up line. My first line was, Luca, I am single and I am HIV negative. Because I thought when they gong me off, at least I've already set the fundamental, the basics. I'm single, available, and safe. And my idea was I might talk to a girl, and let's turn it into sort of a speed dating, collective speed dating, where I just offer myself as a sort of available person. But they laughed when I mentioned HIV negative because I had a test a week before and I was negative. So I had to explain why, and they laughed about it. And then I didn't know what to say anymore because that bit was over in my mind. So I got a lot of laughter out of maybe sympathy because of how broken was my English. How broken my English was. Sorry, you see, still broken. And I was genuine. I remember the very end. I had a bit that I still use sometimes, where I made an impression on my own penis, which in a way it's a classic way to end a comedy club set, the penis joke. But I just said that I have a penis, I cannot show you, but it looks like me, bald with a beard. And luckily at that point there was the hallelujah. And I bet the gong, and then there was the 1 minute with the clap off, and I won that. And then I won the night, but I didn't even know what I won. I had no idea how important or big this could be. I remember I emailed the Comedy Store a few weeks later saying, I won something at your night. I want to be a comedian. And they told me, you need to book 5 minutes open spot in a proper night that we do. And then we move from there. So that's, I was very, very naive. But it was wonderful. If you serve the gong and if you don't take it too seriously, because I believe the problem is I wouldn't do it now. Probably I would even fail now if I did the gong show again. Now I am more aware. Now I'm expecting a reaction. I have a set. I think how to open, how to finish. I was so raw that somehow they like me. And so it worked eventually. So that was my first gig, and it was the first time I won something. So I thought, oh wow! Again, a bit naively, I thought I got 5 minutes. How difficult could it be to have 20 minutes? 8 years later, I am still working on my 20. I have different 20 minutes set, but still working on them. So it turned out it's not that easy.
So how did you, one of the things I'm interested in is comedy across cultures. How did you find that English humor differed from comedy you might have seen in Italy, or how it differs now?
In my opinion, there are a few differences. Now I'm also doing comedy in Italy and in Italian sometimes. So I think I'm learning, although I feel more used to the British audiences because most of my gigs are in English and in the UK. I think that British audience like self-deprecation. They like to laugh at themselves as well. So they know that they go to a comedy club to enjoy some witty humor, dark humor. Italian audiences can be a bit more, how can I say, they would like to laugh at someone else. Like if you make a joke about another category of people, in experience, sometimes punching down still works greatly in Italy. I try not to do it, but I have the feeling that if you isolate a category and no one in the audience self-identifies as people as part of that category, they're very happy to laugh at them. If you turn the humor towards and they get, oh no, this is a bit they might get a bit offended if they feel it's personal on them. They're more happy to, my personal experience, I'm not saying maybe things are changing or maybe it's just what happened when I was there. But definitely also dark humor is a bit different. Like if I like to joke about things that scare me, like death. I'm hypochondriac, so I like to joke about this. I have a silly joke about smoking. I say that I don't smoke, but I breathe air in North London. So it's a matter of money. It's kind of a cheaper way of doing the same. When I joke about smoking in Italy, mainly because Italian people tend to smoke more than the people. They still they still love the old cigarettes, not much as vaping, but a lot of cigarettes. But also sometimes I was told you mentioned these things, so now it's a sort of a superstitious thing. You mentioned bad thing happening, it might happen. You mentioned disease, now someone might get. It's irrational, but it's sort of frowned upon. You do not joke about these things because no, this is not funny. That's why I want to joke about it, because this is not funny. So that scares me. I'm the first person to be scared. So I want to joke about it because humor makes that are scary a little less scary, in my opinion, and a bit funnier. There's always a funny side in things.
Yeah. In your latest show, Happy Orphan, you talk about themes like death and what have you. So, I mean, first of all, tell me about the show, and then can you talk to me about your experience in Edinburgh with the show?
So the show is it's called Happy Orphan, and it is about me, not about the. I guess there's another Happy Orphan in London now, but when I wrote the show, it was just about me, and we can edit out this joke if you want, because once I didn't. I tried once. In the aftermath of Her Majesty passing, and someone said too soon, which I replied, well, I don't think that for King Charles it's too soon. I think he waited for. I mean, Happy Orphan is about myself, and I got the idea of the show because talking about this because 10 years after my mom's death, I received an email, the cemetery she is buried, or she was buried, telling me that they were about to dig her up. It's a standard procedure, apparently, in the cemetery in my town. 10 years, they need to make room for new arrivals. So then I had to choose whether going for the private niche in the wall of a cemetery, which is a bit expensive, or the complimentary free of charge mass grave, where they scatter bones of those who don't pay for the private niche. And so this made me thinking about my mom and the relationship with her. And I just came to the conclusion, I'm much happier since she died. My 10 years without my mom has been among the best years of my life. She wasn't bad. I spent a lot of time saying she wasn't bad. She was an exceptional woman. I'm just happy that she's gone. And in talking about this, a lot of fun. It was a therapeutic in a way. I like to. It's a sort of a taboo in Italy. If you're a Catholic, I am, and son, you should worship your mom. It's a sort of like we worship Virgin Mary. But I still felt it to joke a little bit about the upbringing I had. The awkwardness of my relationship with my mom, the awkwardness of the burial procedure, the idea, because I remember the funeral, the burial, it felt like a big moment for me. Dare to say, I was even more involved in that than in the funeral that happened for Her Majesty the Queen. It was much more private. There was no TV, but it felt special for me. And I thought, oh, this is the last time I see my mom. She's going in the ground. And then years later, it was all about moving things and a sort of a logistic nightmare or business, and you have to pay for this, pay for that. Bones are put in bags. So it was, I think it's fun. It's grotesque. Therefore, it's funny. And someone told me also, but maybe your mom, if your mom could see you talking about her, your relationship with her, in this way, making fun of things that personal, she wouldn't be happy. But the thing is, and I believe in the afterlife, if my mom in their afterlife is somehow forced to watch me from above, I don't know, doing an Edinburgh Fringe show in a small, crammed room, very hot, with walls painted in red and church pews. If she's looking at this, she's not in heaven. My idea of heaven doesn't involve the daily vision of your son making fun of you. Is not heaven. I mean, it's not what it is. So it can't be heaven. honestly. And if she's not in heaven, there's very little I can do about it. It's the least of her problems. My show. I don't know how to, or maybe since in Catholic religion we have purgatory, which is a sort of middle, as bad as hell, but then it grants you promotion to heaven. Then I'm just part of her atonement, and so I'm instrumental to her final journey to heaven. So I'm kind of helping her, like a bad heckler, and to help her. I don't really know. I know this. I mean, I believe she's alive somewhere, but I really hope she has better things to do than she might. What if she saw the previews that were somehow dreadful? Imagine if she had to watch all the previews. That's not her. My idea of her doesn't involve watching open mics and previews and shows probably, but depends.
So tell me about your Edinburgh experience as a whole then, actually putting on the show, promoting the show.
I missed the Fringe. I haven't been in the Fringe since the pandemic. So I missed it in 2020 and 2021. I wasn't there. So I needed to be there. And I also hired a PR, and I found it very helpful because her name is Mel Brown for an impressive PR. What I loved is that we worked together since closely from January. She helped me in brainstorming a possible title. And I remember I was excited. In January we did the photo shooting for the poster, and it was, and she knows everything about the Fringe, the backstage, how it works. So it was very interesting and helpful because it forced me to write a synopsis. That means I had to have a clear idea of the show way months in advance, and that helped me in the writing process because first you outline an idea, the things that could be interesting, that could be funny, and then you have to really explore them. And so it was an investment. How do you say, when you rise the stakes of the Edinburgh journey, but it also made me sharper and more focused on the show itself, to try and make it work. So for the first time I came to Edinburgh. This wasn't my first Fringe, but it was with a show that was almost ready from the very beginning. And then of course it changed. It still changes through the weeks, because of the more you do, the more you find what could work better. And every day is a lesson, for good or ill, but it's a lesson. But this was the first time where I came, I would say, almost prepared. And there were fewer people than usual. Edinburgh is still as full as it was before. And the weather was weird because I was expecting rain. I think this didn't help show like mine because we were in the 2:20 p.m. So early afternoon. And normally when it rains, people look for somewhere to go. But if it's a glorious sunny day and you have the meadows and maybe you have already tickets for a late show in the evening, you really don't want to enter the caves or other dark places in Cowgate. So it was interesting, a bit more challenging, but overall I got a few very good reviews, like 5 4-star reviews. And what I liked, quite a few fellow comedians came to see my show. That made me really happy because I felt special. I really enjoyed when they came to see me. So it was a very positive Fringe. I managed to see a few shows, not as I wanted. I did a lot of spots where I could, so the usual stuff. I missed it. I'm planning to go back next year, but of course I need to make some money because the accommodations were, oh my God, these are. I think something has to change. I don't know if you agree, but I think something has to change. And also, maybe this is too technical for people who might be interested. A place that I really loved was the Fringe Central in the previous years. This year, it was. I went only one. It felt like a business center where you go only to have meetings. So Fringe Center, for those who might not know, is a place where usually you have offices of Fringe Society, the media office, so you can have a one-to-one conversation and useful meeting. But also there used to be a huge space with sofas and areas where you could charge your phone, relax, have a tea, sort of reasonably priced tea or coffee, and put stars on your flyers, chat with comedians. It was really a good space for performers. My experience this year is that this aspect wasn't present in the new Fringe Central, and it felt weird. The old Fringe Society, in my opinion, could do much better, but apparently they don't agree with criticism, so apparently they were very happy with themselves, so it's good for them.
Yeah. Are you taking this show on tour?
So I hope to be able to take it to the Soho Theatre. That would be a dream. It won't happen before next year, 2023, but I would love to.
Yeah.
Also, I'm thinking of translating it in Italian and doing it in Italian, changing something probably, adjusting to the Italian audience. But I'm very curious to see what can happen for an Italian audience, because, for example, for most people, what happens with graves and stuff is not a surprise because they've been through the same thing. So that big wow effect doesn't happen. But make fun of your own mom after she's dead, this might sound interesting. So I think I hope to get away with it, because I was told that I'm a sort of an endearing person, then get away with that. On paper sounds very bad, but once I say them, people are okay with it. So I would like to see if I have this magic in Italian. It might not work, but I look forward to trying.
So you mentioned there not being able to perform at Edinburgh, obviously because of pandemics. How was your pandemic experience? Were you able to do gigs like online?
I did gigs online, but mainly sort of free gigs. It helped me in keeping in touch with some people, and I got a few followers, but I didn't manage to create any viral content. I tried, but not enough. I still have to learn to find my voice on online content. I think I'm too probably complicated and too not short enough, not punchy enough to break through. So I tried. It was interesting. Also, I didn't have, as you can see, I didn't have a great connection, which made the whole pandemic.
Right.
I used up all of my savings because I didn't qualify for any of the helping scheme. But, okay. But it was interesting. The best thing, and also got in touch with comedians from all over Europe, like English speakers. So we had Zoom meetings with people from Portugal and Finland, Germany, and we met. Some of us we met in Edinburgh, some compilation show together. So that was an interesting experience, because there's a growing scene of comedy, English-speaking comedy scene across Europe, and I think that it can become a market in the future. We don't know. We hope. So that was very useful. We made nice connection. I went to Brussels last week, and I will be in Luxembourg in a few days, and in the Netherlands. There's a net that hopefully it will become bigger and bigger. We hope. I don't know. So that was the best thing that happened. But when I did gigs online, I found them very difficult, especially on Microsoft Teams, because sometimes I was the only camera on. So you are watching at yourself, and they had the microphone mute, and they would write ha 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 on the chat. And once I did like half an hour like that, and it was so like really, it was difficult. Like there was a sort of a corporate gig, and there were only 7 people with the camera on, 7 people in total, but there were employee from a company, it was their Friday. Their Friday, they would normally spend it on the pub. Pubs were closed, were having drinks at home. So you could see some of them. They could see you, of course. You could see when they didn't pay attention because maybe partner him with a beer, and they stand up and they go to, I don't know, the toilet. A dog walks in, and of course you are sort of a sentient TV. So you are like a TV for them, but you feel them, you see them. If you watch the TV and say, if you're watching the funeral tonight and you feel going to have a sandwich, this wouldn't, the TV wouldn't notice. Nobody, the pallbearer wouldn't notice. They will still do their job, whether you are looking at them or not. But if you're a comedian doing a bespoke comedy gig for them, and they end up and go somewhere, or they start chatting, you hear them, you see them, and you're just a TV, you're just a figure on the screen, sometimes on a small screen. So you're not relevant, but you should be the center of attention. It's difficult. I don't know, complicated and weird. Like maybe it's what happened okay, now I'm about to say something weird, but you know the peep shows?
I'm aware of them.
Where there's a stripper and there's every viewers are a different point of view. Online gigs were sort of like this, but I feel that probably in a peep show, at least they are probably enjoying it visibly, but in an online show, not that much. I don't know. You can feel free to edit and remove every inappropriate analogy that I might, because I
love that. No, that's fantastic. You mentioned about being able to talk with a network of European comics and perform with them. Is it useful for European comics to come from different countries and be able to share their experiences of performing in Britain? Because obviously they'll all have different experiences from their own cultures.
It's helpful because, well, I also think that probably being in the UK gives you a sort of an edge, because comedy is honestly better here. You have to become better. There is so long tradition. They are comedy savvy. They know what they want. They can have every comedian they want. They can watch every best comedians in the world. Sooner or later, they perform in London. So if you see a crowd, even a small crowd in any comedy club in London especially, you know they could have chosen anything else over your nights, and you better be good. So this is a kind of I love. They are not very patient, but it is helpful. For example, in Italy, you could talk for 3 minutes without an actual joke, and people will still listen to you. In the UK, there's no way after 3 minutes, if they haven't laughed, they will let you know that they are dissatisfied with the service that you provide them. So I believe that living in the UK helps. Being a comedian that isn't born in Britain maybe gives you a different angle, of course, because you need to. Because the good thing is, you are the different one sometimes, or you are the one with a distinctive accent. But my Italian accent was never a problem for comedy. But also, you don't want to be just Italian comedian. I don't want to just talk about Italy, because I'm not the ambassador of Italy. So I just talk about myself. Whatever I like is important for me. So as long as you can avoid to be pigeonholed to be the stereotypical Italian or a foreigner, it's very useful. And when you perform in Europe, in my experience, you will perform in a weird audience of expats, like I was in Brussels, and maybe out of 200 people, I believe there were maybe 10 or 15 Belgians. The rest was either work at European institutions or a big corporation, big multinational. So it felt like a very international, or the one you find in Canary Wharf, if you want, something like that. People from all over the place. So that was it's a different market. it would be weird having, I don't know, Belgian people that wants to listen to comedy in English. If they are all Belgian, probably have comedians that speak their own language, and they can be even funnier. So what's the problem? But so it's interesting. And yes, living in the UK, I think is a big difference. Makes you, forces you to be a bit sharper, a bit better, if you can.
In 2015, you won the So You Think You're Funny.
Yes.
How was being in the competition? Do they appeal to you?
Yeah, I loved it. So I had started in 2014. I had a very weird career. So I had maybe less than 10 gigs, open mic, 5 minutes, sometimes 10. Then I did my first Fringe in 2014 without knowing anything about the Fringe, because a friend suggested, and I booked a room that was called the Gothic Room of the Three Sisters, midnight 30. I couldn't see the audience. There was a DJ set, very noisy. People, there were massive walkout at 1 a.m. and they were waiting to get to see Shaggers. That was at like 1:40. I think I performed in front of maybe 5 people, without people that walking out. The people that stayed through all the show were no more than 5 every night, probably. And I didn't have material. So I thought you had to change material every night. That was my idea of the show. It was a disaster, but very useful. 10 open mics and a full run in a Fringe where nobody saw me doing nothing, basically. And that was all I knew. So I needed to get back to some proper gigs with real audience. And what I loved of competition, because this is common, I believe, for many people when they start, they part in any competition, any competition they find, because it adds to it makes everything more special. If you do the open mic, after a while you are really bored, because you know the audience is made up of comedians and they don't listen to you, so you don't even know if it's working or not. So everyone is there just to get their precious 5 minutes on stage. So I think Funny was a blessing. It was in Waterloo at Slag and Lettuce, I think. And what I loved is that it's not competition where you need to have at the end of the heat. You perform. It feels like a normal, nice comedy night with 10 or maybe a dozen of comedians doing 5-7 minutes. And there's no pressure in a way, because either all of them virtually could get to the semifinal or none of them. So it's not, you don't need you don't have that sort of feeling. At the end of the night, there's no losers or winners. You just had a very good night. And in the audience, there are also Julia Chamberlain and someone from the panel that will select those who are, according to them, the best. But once you don't get it, and you have a real audience and they're up for laughter, it's just beautiful. So the heat was already wonderful. Wonderful. Then I had the pressures, because in the semifinal you had to win. So I was very, very nervous. But again, it felt great. It was in a room with I think it's called a wine bar. There was 100 people. Bear in mind, if you do comedy, when you start, you never get to see 100 people. The best you could see, maybe in Angel. I had one Angel Camden Head, and there were 100 people. But this was different. People bought a ticket to see you, so it was wonderful. And I went to the final. And in the final, I remember I was slightly disappointed at the beginning, because I was the last one. You know, the running order. And the last one is not, normally is the headliner, but in a competition, I believe is not the greatest place, because the worst one is the first one, probably, because you have to open, and the audience might be not ready yet. But the last one, the audience will be probably tired, and it was like, really, you need to, they've seen everyone at that point, so it's hard to surprise them. So I thought, okay, let's enjoy the night. Let's do the best we can do. It's a wonderful stage, huge stage. And I remember I thought, from tomorrow, you keep doing comedy. You don't take this night as a sort of a judgment of your career, which is, I believe, a useful advice. We should listen to feedbacks, and we should read reviews. Of course, everyone that has an opinion of what we're doing, it's worth listening to. But we shouldn't give these people or reviewers of feedback power to choose to decide for our career. If you really want to be on stage, if you love being vulnerable and be yourself on stage and make people laugh, then you just have to go in and keep doing it. Even if someone writes something that is very nasty about you, or even if you end up last in a competition, doesn't mean anything. It's maybe just that it wasn't the right competition for you, or you weren't ready yet. So that was I had this sort of prep talk with myself before the final. Yuriko was there also, Yuriko Kotani. It was a very nice final. And when I won, I was surprised. I was very surprised because I thought I did okay. I wasn't very optimistic about that. But then when they called, so they didn't call me. I wasn't the third. I wasn't the second one. And I thought, okay, no. And then I was doing myself the prep talk. Okay, tomorrow you keep doing comedy, doesn't matter. And then they called my name. I won. And I'm grateful to Mark Watson, who was the main, the comedian, the head of jury, I don't know, the panel. He was, I think he really liked me. So that was I'm really grateful. And that felt wonderful. And I need some recognition, because again, you can be as optimistic as you want, but it's good when you at some point get some sort of recognition from people that says, actually, yes, you can be funny. This might be your career eventually. And since my career started with Gong Show, that nothing happened for a year and a half. So, we have this big unexpected victory. Then you learn when you go. So it's a lot of learning experience. It's a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad nights. So it felt wonderful when a month later I got to the final and I won. So it gives you another, it's like bouncing back. Okay, now nice. And then you look for anything that can keep you going.
You said there about lessons. Is there an important lesson? What are the most important lessons or philosophies that you've learned that you can take forward?
I would say that you need to get out of the comfort zone every time, because for some people, going on is already outside the comfort zone. But after a while, when you do it and you cling to your own material that you know is going to work, then it's not as it might be. You need to force yourself a little bit and say, okay, let's try something different. Let's say something that we initially we wouldn't have said. Let's find the limit, not just in terms of, I'm not an edgy comedian, not, let's push the limit of decency. I'm not much into this, but let's find your voice deeper and deeper. Be yourself as much as possible, sort of a naked on stage. We tend to have layers. We tend to hide behind a mask. It could be the Italian funny guy, it could be the immigrant from the Catholic one. Every facet of my personality become a mask. So my job is to try and get these layers out and be myself, because if you are very vulnerable, I believe being vulnerable in the society, most problems happen because people don't admit that they might have flaws. They don't admit they not be as they thought. And this creates barriers. I think the job of a comedian is to show people that, look, I don't respect myself that much. I mean, I treat myself respectfully, but I'm not better than anyone else. So if I make fun of myself or my dead mom or my religion, maybe we can really make fun of everything, because it's just human and make us, eventually we'll feel better. I think this might be a nice lesson for sure, maybe for other people. And as a performer, I'm trying to get back to the original, to the energy I had on my very first comedy gig, because at the the Comedy Store, when I did the Gong Show, I was all energy, and now I got to learn a bit more about comedy, about a set, about some technique, because you are more aware, you're less crazy if you want. So I'm trying, now that I'm learning the craft, to go back to the original myself. I had this crazy energy and jumped on the most brutal open mic in London without even knowing that was the most brutal open mic. So I would want it to be able to have a good knowledge of what comedy is, but with the same sort of naive energy. That would be my goal as a performer. I think that could be at my best if I manage to get to that point.
So, Luca, where can we find out about you? Where can we find out when you're playing?
Oh, yes. So I'm on social media, so Instagram, Twitter, not very active, but I'm trying my best. Is Luca Cupani, so it's my name and surname. Also on Facebook. And comedy-wise, well, this week I'm a bit international because I will be mainly in Europe. Looking at so I'm excited. I don't play as much as as often as I would like outside London. So every time I get a chance, I love it. And I will be at the Leicester Square Theatre for a weird things, thanks to a fellow comedian. He's not traditional stand-up. He's called Katsura Sunshine. I don't know if you know about him. He's a Canadian-born, he's a Canadian performer, and many years ago, and he's been living there for more than 20 years. And he became an apprentice of a master of rakugo, which is a sort of funny storytelling, Japanese traditional storytelling, very old way of saying jokes. They sit down, they kneel down with a kimono and everything. So he's been doing this in Milan and once a month in London and in New York. Mm-hmm. And since we are friends, we met at the first Fringe 2014. We've been friends since then. We decided to try to change the format of his show and we decided to do a sort of a combination of stand-up and rakugo. So the first half of the show, we both come on stage and we chat briefly with the audience, which is similar to the Japanese manzai technique, although we don't prepare anything, we just improvise. Mm-hmm. Then he does a little bit of stand-up. I do a bit more of stand-up. Then second half, I wear the kimono and I do a shorter Japanese version in English, of course, a short story of rakugo. And then he does a longer rakugo story. Did this on September and it worked. Mm-hmm. It was a couple 10 days ago, and we want to do again on the 20th of November. So that would be interesting. It's a very bizarre, but I believe funny thing, and we might see what those different cultures have in common. And we are both out of our places because he's Canadian living in Japan. I was born in Italy and do stand-up in English in London. So we are where we shouldn't be, but we are just enjoying it. So we keep doing it.
Marvelous. And finally, Luca, how would you please summarize comedy in a nutshell?
Oh, comedy in a nutshell. How many words do I have? I'll do just one short sentence. The art of not taking anything seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you can expand on it if you want to.
Oh, yeah. No, yes. It's, just finding the funny and share it with people. Because if you just find it and you keep it for yourself, you're a bad comedian and you need to share it. Provided they buy a ticket for it.
Fantastic. Luca, thank you so much for being with me and talking to me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Have a nice day. Thank you so much.